This pyramid has stood for 4,500 years. It is built from 2.3 million blocks of stone. Some weigh as much as a school bus. The Egyptians had no iron, no wheels, no cranes. Not even the wheel, already used elsewhere by then. So how did they do it? For centuries, people guessed wildly. Aliens, lost magic, impossible slave armies. None of it holds up to the evidence. The truth is even more incredible. Real people, real tools, a real plan. This is how the pyramids were actually built. Stone by stone, year by year. Let's go back 4,500 years. Ancient astronaut theories once dazzled millions. But Egyptian records describe the builders by name. They were not slaves in chains. They were Egyptian farmers, bakers, and craftsmen. Paid in bread, beer, and grain. Volunteers came from across the kingdom. Building the pyramid was an honor, not a punishment. Their names still survive today. One crew even called themselves Friends of Khufu. This is a story of skill, not slavery. Everything begins with the Nile River. Its floods left rich black soil every year. That soil grew enough grain to feed an empire. And feed thousands of pyramid builders too. Beyond the fields, only endless desert. The desert also held something precious: stone. Limestone, granite, and sandstone, ready to be carved. Egypt gave its people everything they needed. Water for life, stone for eternity. Here, one king would attempt the impossible. A kingdom of farmers would soon build a mountain. The stage of ancient Egypt was ready. Around 2560 BCE, a new pharaoh took the throne. His name was Khufu. He wanted a tomb worthy of a god. Egyptians believed pharaohs became gods after death. A grand tomb would help him rule the afterlife. So Khufu summoned his finest minds. His vizier Himeyinu was given the task. Build me the tallest monument the world has seen. It must never crumble. It must last forever. The greatest construction project in history had begun. First, Himeyinu had to choose the perfect site. It needed solid bedrock to bear the weight. The Giza plateau was chosen, flat, firm, golden. Close enough to the Nile for easy transport. Far enough from the floodwaters to stay dry. Workers hammered wooden stakes into the ground. Ropes marked the outline of a giant square. Each side would stretch over 230 meters. The stage was set for something extraordinary. But a square in the sand wasn't enough. The pyramid had to face true north exactly. So the priests turned to the night sky. They tracked 2 stars circling the pole. When the stars aligned, they marked true north. The result was stunning, almost perfectly accurate. More precise than most buildings built today. No compass, no modern tools, just careful eyes. The stars themselves became the first blueprint. Now, the real building could begin. Before a single block was laid, the ground had to be perfect. Even a small slope could ruin everything. So workers carved a grid of shallow trenches. They filled the trenches with water. Water always finds a level surface. Workers measured the depth at every point. Any high point was chiseled down a match. Bit by bit, the entire plateau became dead flat. The foundation was ready. Now came the stone. Every measurement in Egypt used one single standard. It was called the royal cubit, based on the length of a forearm to fingertip. Master copies were kept in temples for reference. Every builder's rod was checked against it regularly. A wrong measurement could mean punishment for the mason. This kept every block's dimensions consistent, site-wide. Plumb bobs checked that walls rose perfectly straight. Set squares checked that corners were perfectly right-angled. Simple tools, used with total discipline, built a wonder. Not far away, a quarry roared to life. Workers had no iron chisels or steel drills. Instead, they used tools of copper and stone. Copper chisels cut soft limestone with ease. Dolerite hammerstones pounded even harder rock. Teams first cut deep grooves around a block. Then wooden wedges were driven into the grooves. Water was poured over the dry wedges. The wood swelled and slowly split the stone. With a deep crack, the block finally broke free. Each block could weigh over 2 tons. The quarry produced blocks nearly nonstop for years. Rough limestone built the pyramid's core. But the outer skin needed something finer. That stone came from Toil, across the Nile. Toil limestone was brilliant white and smooth. It would one day make the pyramid shine like a jewel. But first, it had to cross the water. Workers built sturdy wooden barges for the crossing. Every stone crossing was a delicate operation. Stone by stone, the far bank came to Giza. The Nile wasn't just nearby, it was the highway. During the flood season, water rose closer to the plateau. Engineers dug a harbor and canal right to the site. Now boats could unload almost at the foot of the pyramid. Recent excavations found the remains of this harbor. Papyrus logs even describe the boat crews by name. One overseer named Mira recorded his cruise journeys. His diary is one of the oldest ever found. It proves the river was the lifeline of the project. Without the Nile, the pyramids may never have risen. Once ashore, blocks needed a way to move over sand. The answer: wooden sledges shaped like long sleds. A heavy block was levered onto the sledge. Thick ropes of twisted papyrus fiber lashed it down. Dozens of workers gripped the ropes ahead. On command, they leaned forward together. The sledge groaned and began to slide. Every meter forward took strength and rhythm. This is how the true giants of Egypt moved, on wood, not wheels. Dragging a block across dry sand was brutal work. Dry sand piles up in front of the sledge like a wall. Egyptian workers discovered a clever trick. They wetted the sand just ahead of the sledge. Wet sand grains stick together and firm up. This cut the dragging force almost in half. A wall painting even shows a worker pouring water this way. Modern scientists tested it and proved the Egyptians right. A simple trick of physics moved mountains of stone. Moving one block took far more than muscle. It took teamwork, rhythm, and precise timing. A chant helped everyone pull at the same moment. Water bearers ran ahead, keeping the sand slick. Others rested at the sides, ready to swap in. Overseers walked alongside, watching for injuries or trouble. Even children ran water and tools to the crews. It looked less like slavery, more like a festival of labor. Every haul brought the pyramid one block closer. And every day, the pyramid grew a little taller. But how did workers lift blocks higher and higher? The pyramid would eventually reach 146 meters tall. No crane existed that could lift stone that high. Egyptologists agree on one answer: ramps. But which kind of ramp? Experts still debate. Let's look at the leading theories. Theory 1, a single straight ramp. Theory 2, a ramp spiraling around the pyramid. Theory 3, a hidden ramp built inside. The straight ramp theory is the simplest idea. A long mound of packed earth and rubble. Workers dragged sledges straight up the slope. As the pyramid grew, the ramp grew too. But there's a problem with this theory. A ramp reaching the full height would be enormous. It would need more material than the pyramid itself. That seems wasteful, even for the Egyptians. So most experts think the real answer is different. Another idea: a ramp spiraling up the outside. Like a staircase wound around a tower. This used far less material than a straight ramp. Workers could haul blocks up, turning corner after corner. But this theory has its own puzzle. A spiral ramp would cover the pyramid's corners. How did builders check their angles were still perfect? Some think a short spiral combined with straight sections. The debate over ramps continues to this day. A newer theory looks inside the pyramid itself. French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed this idea. A ramp tunnel built into the pyramid, spiraling upward. Workers hauled stone up this hidden internal path. A gap in the outer corner let stones turn each corner. Scanning technology has found hints of hidden voids. No theory has been proven beyond doubt. Perhaps the builders combined several clever methods. Whatever the method, the engineering was staggering. Getting a block up the ramp was only half the job. It still had to be placed with total precision. Workers used long wooden levers to nudge it. A log placed underneath acted like a fulcrum. Copper tools smoothed the block's rough edges. A block was tested against its neighbor again and again. The final joints were nearly seamless. Even today, you can't slide a knife between many joints. This precision took patience most of us can't imagine. The pyramid hides some strange mathematical coincidences. Divide its perimeter by twice its height. You get a number remarkably close to pi. Is this an accident or a deliberate choice? Historians think it may come from their measuring method. Rolling a drum a fixed number of times naturally creates that ratio. So the pi mystery may simply be clever practical engineering. The base is also almost a perfect square. Its sides differ by only centimeters over 230 meters. Coincidence or genius, the numbers still amaze us today. None of this happened with a small crew. Historians estimate around 20,000 workers total. Not 20,000 at once, but across the whole project. Most were seasonal farmers with nothing to do during the flood. When the Nile flooded, their fields vanished underwater. So the state called them to work on the pyramid instead. It was steady work, fed and housed by the state. Skilled workers stayed on year-round. Together, farmers and craftsmen formed a small city of labor. This was one of the largest workforces in the ancient world. Even foreign traders came to trade with the workers' town. This was a hub of activity unlike anything before it. In the 1990s, archaeologists made a stunning discovery. Just south of the pyramids, an entire buried town. Rows of barracks where workers slept in groups. Bakeries with rows of bread molds still in place. Breweries where beer was brewed by the vat. Enormous numbers of animal bones from daily meals. This wasn't the diet of starving slaves. It was the diet of a well-fed labor force. The town even had its own cemetery for workers. Being buried near the pyramid was a mark of honor. This town housed thousands, season after season. It proved the pyramid was built by a nation, not slaves. Feeding thousands of workers was a massive operation. Bakers turned mountains of grain into bread daily. Simple clay molds shaped loaves by the thousand. Beer was safer to drink than the river water. It was also packed with nutrients and calories. Cattle were slaughtered regularly to supply meat. Fish from the Nile added to the daily menu. A small army of cooks kept the whole site fed. Granaries stored enough grain to last through the year. Nothing was left to chance in feeding this army of builders. Well-fed workers meant a project that could actually finish. Heavy stonework is dangerous, even with careful planning. Skeletons found at Giza tell a surprising story. Many bones show broken limbs that had fully healed. That means someone set the bone and cared for the injury. Egypt had physicians skilled in setting bones and splints. Injured workers were not simply abandoned. Some recovered and returned to lighter duties. This kind of care doesn't fit the image of slave labor. It fits the image of a valued, organized workforce. Beyond haulers, the project needed rare skills. Carpenters built sledges, levers, and boats. Metal workers cast and sharpened copper tools daily. Rope makers twisted papyrus fiber into thick coils. Sculptors carved fine details into temple stones. Scribes recorded supplies, wages, and progress on papyrus. Every trade fit together like gears in a machine. This was not brute force alone. It was organized expertise. A whole economy grew just to raise one monument. Workers were organized into teams called gangs. Each gang had a few thousand members. Gangs split further into smaller crews of about 20. Crews gave themselves proud, competitive names. Others called themselves drunkards of Menkor. These names were painted right onto the stone blocks. Some of this graffiti survives inside the pyramid today. Friendly rivalry pushed crews to work faster. Pride in the work is written into the stones themselves. Not every stone in the pyramid was limestone. Deep inside, the burial chamber needed something stronger. That stone was granite, from Aswan, far to the south. Granite is far harder than limestone to cut. It took far longer to shape each granite block. Some granite beams weighed over 50 tons. These giants traveled the entire length of the Nile by barge. At Giza, they were hauled up into the pyramid's heart. Every granite block added weeks of extra labor. The reward was a chamber built to last forever. Inside the pyramid, passages rose at a steep angle. The grand gallery stretched high and narrow. Workers hauled granite blocks up this steep incline. Every echo in the chamber still carries their effort. At the top waited the king's chamber. Its walls were built from solid granite slabs. Above it, hidden relieving chambers spread the weight. This clever design kept the ceiling from ever collapsing. Even after 4,500 years, the chamber stands unbroken. When Khufu died, his tomb had to be sealed forever. His body was prepared through careful mummification. The sarcophagus was lowered into the king's chamber. Massive granite plugs waited above the descending passage. After the burial, the plugs were released to slide down. They jammed the passage shut, blocking robbers. Workers then sealed the outer entrance completely. From outside, the entrance vanished into smooth stone. The tomb was meant to be sealed for eternity. As the pyramid neared its peak, the work grew delicate. The very top stone is called the pyramidion. Some pyramidions were covered in gleaming metal. Electrum, a blend of gold and silver, caught the sun. From miles away, the tip would blaze like fire. Setting it in place was the final triumphant act. A priest blessed the stone before it was set. With one final block, the shape was complete. The tallest structure on Earth now stood finished. The pyramid wasn't finished with rough stone showing. Workers still had to attach the white Torah casing. Each casing stone was cut at a precise angle. They were polished until they gleamed like glass. Sunlight would bounce off the finished surface for miles. Ancient visitors described it as impossibly bright. Today, most of that casing is long gone. Earthquakes and stone robbers stripped it away over centuries. Only a few original casing stones remain at the base. How long did all of this actually take? Ancient accounts suggest around 20 years. That's roughly 800 blocks placed every single day. Year after year, season after season, without stopping. Generations of workers grew up around this project. Some workers spent their entire careers on this one site. Entire villages were shaped around feeding this effort. The pyramid became more than a monument. It became a way of life. 2.3 million blocks, one at a time. It's almost impossible to imagine the patience required. Just east of the pyramids crouches a giant guardian, carved from a single mound of natural bedrock. It has the body of a lion and the face of a king. Some believe it wears the likeness of Pharaoh Khafre. Carving it took skill different from stacking blocks. Workers had to remove stone, not add it. Wind and sand have worn its face over the ages. Even missing its nose, it still commands attention. It has watched over the pyramids for over 4,000 years. But why go through all this trouble at all? Egyptians believed death was not the end. The pharaoh's spirit needed a body and a home to return to. The pyramid's shape itself held deep meaning. Some believe it mirrored the rays of the sun god Ra. Others see it as a giant staircase to the heavens. Every chamber and passage served the pharaoh's eternal journey. The pyramid was a machine for reaching the afterlife. To the builders, this purpose made every stone worth it. Today, the Great Pyramid still stands at Giza. It is the last surviving wonder of the ancient world. Its smooth white casing is gone, but its bones remain. Wind and time have worn its edges rounder. Yet it has outlasted empires, wars, and centuries of sand. Modern engineers still study how it was built. New scanning technology reveals hidden chambers even now. Every year, new evidence adds to the story. The Great Pyramid still has secrets left to tell. So, were the pyramids built by aliens? No, they were built by Egyptians with real skill. Were they built by chained, miserable slaves? No, paid workers, fed, housed, and even healed when hurt. Was it magic or a lost impossible technology? No, just copper tools, wooden sledges, ramps, and water. The true story needed no myths at all. Human patience, teamwork, and cleverness were enough. That is the real wonder of the pyramids. Khufu's pyramid inspired even greater ambitions. His son and grandson built pyramids of their own beside his. Together they formed the skyline we know today. The Sphinx was carved to guard them, watching the horizon. For thousands of years, travelers came just to stand in awe. Napoleon's soldiers stood before them centuries later. Today, millions of visitors still make the same journey. The pyramid outlived every pharaoh who ever ruled after it. Stone, it turns out, can outlast almost everything. So next time you see the Great Pyramid, remember, no aliens, no lost magic, no chains. Just farmers, bakers, sculptors, and one bold vision. 20 years, 2.3 million blocks, one impossible dream. Made real by patience, teamwork, and the will of a civilization. The Egyptians didn't need magic. They had something better. Human ingenuity, carved in stone forever. If this journey through ancient Egypt fascinated you, subscribe and join us for the next secret of ancient Egypt.